before TikTok Shop and whatnot, and before every influencer figured out that they could sell you something while you were scrolling on your phone, QVC had already mastered the game. For decades, they were the gold standard in the space. So if you wanted to understand how to sell through a screen, you studied what they did. They had charismatic hosts, products with a story, a number to call, and an audience that tuned in both to be entertained and to transact. They really wrote the playbook that now everyone else is trying to copy across a newer medium. Here's the question that has been stuck in my head for a while now. How does this one-time $14 billion company that wrote the playbook on live shopping end up desperately trying to get noticed on TikTok and just focused on survival? Because that's exactly where QVC is right now. In February 2026, Bloomberg reported that QVC was in talks with creditors about restructuring $6.6 billion in debt, potentially through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Their stock crashed 66% in a single day when the news came out. Now, a lot of people will just tell you that this is just a cord-cutting story. People stopped watching cable and QVC lost their audience, end of story. But that's not actually what happened here. There's a deeper lesson in this, one that applies way beyond just retail or media. So make sure you stick around because I'm going to break down the one mistake QVC kept making over and over again and why it's the same trap that takes down companies in every industry. So let's get into it. I'm Sammi Cohen, and this is Social Currency, a podcast that unpacks the stories that are shaping business, culture, and the intersection of the two. So to understand how far QVC has fallen, we need to rewind the clocks. QVC launched in 1986, and the name stood for Quality, Value, Convenience. But what actually made them different was their approach. While other retailers were pushing aggressive sales tactics, QVC hosts felt like your friendly neighbor, just a neighbor who happened to know a lot about air fryers. They called it the soft sell philosophy, and it built a level of trust that traditional retail wasn't creating for their shoppers. By 1987, they were broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in order to sell all around the clock, they bought inventory in bulk, sold it at a higher margin, and rode the massive built-in audience of cable television. Unlike department stores with thousands of physical locations eating into the margins, QVC's overhead was pretty minimal. In 2023, a company called Liberty Media took full control by buying out Comcast's stake for $7.9 billion. And for a while, QVC was a cash flow machine, reliable, predictable, and seemingly untouchable. And John Malone, the founder of Liberty Media, who is now a media mogul, basically used QVC's revenue to fuel the rest of his media empire. And over the years, Liberty Media has owned companies ranging from SiriusXM and Starz Entertainment. Today, Liberty Media has a significant ownership stake in Live Nation and Formula One, along with a handful of other companies. At their peak, QVC was reaching over 360 million homes worldwide through 17 television networks. They expanded into the UK, Germany, Japan, and Italy. They had become a cultural institution, and the model was really printing money. But here's the thing about building an empire on a single distribution channel. Your fate is tied to that channel's fate. And by the mid-2010s, that channel was starting to crack. And this is where the story starts to get painful, because QVC didn't ignore the threat. They saw it coming and tried to respond, but they just responded in the complete wrong way. So in 2015, QVC's parent company bought a company called Zulily for $2.4 billion. Zulily was a flash sale site targeting young moms, and nearly half of their orders came from mobile devices. The logic made sense on paper. Combine QVC's video expertise with Zulily's mobile-first audience and create a powerhouse that could reach every demographic. But the cultures clashed immediately, and QVC's customers valued the storytelling, the host relationships, the trust built over decades, while Zulily shoppers wanted quick deals on boutique brands. They weren't watching for the experience, they were hunting for the discounts. So these models were inherently quite different. Instead of becoming the digital growth engine that would carry QVC into the future, Zulily became a drag on profitability, and their revenue kept sliding. By 2023, years after they had initially purchased them, QVC sold Zulily to a private equity firm called Regent. And just months after the private equity acquisition happened, Zulily went into total liquidation. You would think that after Zulily, maybe the strategy would shift for QVC. Maybe they would look at what was working in digital and streaming and go all in. Nope. not the case at all. In 2017, QVC announced that they were buying the remaining 62% of HSN, another live shopping platform that they didn't already own. The company was led by CEO Mindy Grossman, who then went over to Weight Watchers once the deal went through. The deal was valued at around $2.6 billion, including debt, and the pitch was all about consolidation. Combine these two huge players in TV shopping, cut hundreds of millions of dollars in costs, and just dominate the entire category. This move made the combined network the third biggest in the US by sales, behind Amazon and Walmart. Here's what they were actually doing when they did this. They were consolidating their position in a market that was actively shrinking. Because 2017 was the same year that cord cutting really started to accelerate. Subscription TV, also called pay TV, lost about 1.5 million subscribers that year, and then losses nearly doubled in 2018. And by the time the HSN deal closed, the foundation was already crumbling. If you think about it this way, they had enough money to acquire or build a legitimate streaming infrastructure, to develop a social commerce platform, or to completely reimagine what live shopping could look like in a digital-first world. Instead, they bought more seats on an already sinking ship. The numbers that followed tell you the story, honestly, better than I can. Cable TV penetration peaked at around 88% of households in 2010. Yet by 2024, it had dropped below 50%. Some estimates put it as low as 38%. So we're talking about 27 million lost subscribers between 2017 and 2024 alone. And that pace keeps accelerating. Pay TV providers lost over 5 million subscribers in 2024 alone. So another way to think about this is in May 2025, for the first time ever, streaming accounted for nearly 45% of total TV viewership. Cable dropped to just 24%, and the medium that QVC was built on wasn't just declining, it's becoming a minority share in how people watch anything on TV. And QVC felt every single one of those losses. In 2018, they tried rebranding to Curate Retail Group, as if a new name could signal a new direction. And in 2021, they brought in David Rawlinson II as CEO with a mandate to modernize the company. Flash forward to February 2025, just around a year ago, they changed their name yet again to the QVC Group, which is the name that remains today. But you can't cost cut your way or rebrand your way out of a structural decline. By Q3 2025, the company was using the term going concern language in their regulatory filings. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with those terms, that is corporate speak for we're not sure that we can keep the lights on. Their active customer base shrank from 8.1 million in fiscal 2023 to about 7 million by September 2025. Revenue kept falling, down double digits in some quarters. Operating income collapsed by over 60%. In January 2025, they announced that they were closing HSN's campus in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they had consolidated everything to Pennsylvania. And yet, a few months after that, they laid off 900 employees, and that's about 5% of their workforce. And then came the stock implosion. In May 2025, they did a reverse stock split just to stay listed on the NASDAQ since their stock price had cratered so much. And by November, shares dropped another 40% after a brutal earnings report. And when Bloomberg broke the bankruptcy news in February 2026, the stock crashed 66% in a single day. And here's the part that really gets me. In April 2025, so also just about a year ago, QVC announced a strategic partnership to host 24/7 live shopping streams on TikTok. The company that mastered live shopping, that defined this entire format for decades, is now asking for a seat at TikTok's table. And look, the early results have been solid. Starting in April 2025, they began streaming 24/7 right away. They've racked up over 35 million live stream views on the platform in less than a year. When they launched on TikTok Shop, the audience was there and ready to consume and buy from them. But think about the irony here. QVC produces over 40,000 hours of shoppable content per year. They have decades of expertise in building trust through on-screen personalities. They basically wrote the playbook that everyone's now trying to copy. And they are also adapting to the new affiliate model that is really the backbone now of how live shopping on TikTok works. They have a loyalty program for affiliates on TikTok, which it formed by looking at the top sellers on the platform and rewards them with better commissions and access to certain products. Social scrolling is the new channel surfing. But in this new world, QVC doesn't control the remote anymore. Which brings us to where we are today. According to Bloomberg, QVC is in confidential talks with creditors about restructuring its debt through Chapter 11. They're carrying $6.6 billion in debt, including a $2.9 billion credit facility that matures in October 2026. So the clock is ticking every day. And there's also a major tax liability hanging over everything. They've already tried to buy time with debt exchanges in 2024, but the math keeps getting worse. Now, I want to be really clear about something. Chapter 11 doesn't necessarily mean the end. It's obviously not liquidation. Many companies restructure through Chapter 11 and come out on the other side. QVC could theoretically emerge leaner with a cleaner balance sheet and a shot at competing in the streaming era. But that path is narrowing. Every quarter without a successful refinancing brings them closer to a reckoning. And the audience that made their model work in the first place, most of them have already moved on, and if they haven't yet, they will soon. So what's the lesson here? I think it's tempting to blame cord cutting and call it a day. External forces, tech disruption, nothing they could have done. But that also lets QVC off the hook a little bit too easily. Plenty of companies have navigated distribution shifts. Netflix went from DVDs to streaming. Apple went from computers to phones. The best companies see change coming and reposition before it's too late. QVC saw it coming too, and the numbers were screaming at them for years to adapt to the new social media world, but they dug their heads in the sand. They spent the billions of dollars that they did have on consolidating a dying market instead of building for the future. They bought Zulily to reach younger consumers and couldn't integrate it. They bought HSN to dominate TV shopping right as TV shopping stopped mattering. Every major capital allocation decision reinforced the old world instead of preparing for the new one. And that's really what makes it tragic, because the skills that made QVC great in the first place, building trust, creating compelling live content, turning products into stories, those skills are actually more valuable than ever in a world of TikTok shop and whatnot. The format they perfected is everywhere now, but the company was so focused on protecting what they had that they let the other players in the space take their own playbook and run with it. The company that taught America how to shop from their couches is now fighting for attention in a 6-second scroll. The living room looks different now, but the lesson is timeless. When the world changes, you either change with it or you become a cautionary tale. And that is it for today's episode. Please let me know your thoughts about all things QVC, HSN, live shopping, and really anything that has to do with this episode in the comments. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Social Currency. Before you go, take a second to subscribe to the show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And if you liked what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast. It massively helps the work I do to bring this show to life. And if you have a friend who is as obsessed with business and culture as you are, send this episode to them, because sharing the show is one of the best ways to support it. And if you want to keep up with the hottest business lore in real time, follow me on Instagram at Sammi Cohen Talks and subscribe to my newsletter, Social Currency, linked in the show notes. Social Currency is a production of Social Currency Media and Money News Network. The podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Sammi Cohen, and produced by the Money News Network team. See you next time.